Welcome to the front row. I'm your host, Brad Rowe, and this is a space where unfiltered stories of the human condition get told. Pull up a chair. Welcome, front row podcast viewers. I have a special guest today. I have my father, Cliff, with me, and I'm just so grateful for the opportunity to do this podcast with him and to have him out here in Montana and spend some time with him to work on our relationship. And for those of you who have followed my podcast thus far and know my story, you know the pain and the abandonment wounds and things like that I dealt with. But my dad has a story, and my dad has a pretty remarkable one. And I'm just so grateful to be able to witness, his journey through life. And it wasn't always perfect, but there was so many lessons that I learned from that, and just blessed to have this opportunity for him to come on and share his story. So, Dad.
Hey, Fred, thank you so much. I love you so much. It's really an honor. And thank you for that invite to Montana. What a beautiful place this is. It's truly God's country.
It is. It is. I'll start out and I'll just kind of give a recap of, kind of my story with you. And it's great how my childhood affected me. And so without diving too much into his story, my parents split up when I was 18 months or so.
18 months old, yes.
Yeah, about 18 months old. And, Dad was dealing with his own shit. And, but from a child's eyes, it looked like Dad didn't want anything to do with me. Yeah. And, Dad's life was horses. And, I always kind of felt like I was second place to horses and everything. And so, there was a lot of that abandonment wounds, a lot of, feeling unworthiness, being there with him. Obviously horses was such a big part of the life, and it was something that I got into, and it was brought challenging times, as you being my trainer.
Yeah.
And, so Dad, right. And Dad part definitely got left aside a lot. It was, my dad killed himself to even put me in a situation to be able to have a horse to ride. And so for that, I'm so grateful for. But you're expected to perform, and I was a pretty decent rider, and so he saw potential. And obviously, I'm sure, as most of you dads know, when your kids get into sports and stuff, you push them hard. And so there was a lot of hatred and resentment on that end of things, and eventually led to a point where I walked away from something I loved because that was the only way I could hurt you.
Yes.
Yeah. And
it did.
Yeah. And it's funny to look back and, and I don't even think I really fully understood my motives at the time, but to sit back and look and realize that was the underlying thing. I said it was because I just wanted to focus on football, which I did. I loved other sports. I wanted to do it all, but really I think that was the only way I felt like I could hurt you.
Yeah.
So, that was probably right around when I was a late teenager, like 13, 14-ish is when really, I think I started to rebel against like wanting to be with you. And there was a lot of distance there for a long time. And,
sure. And I thought it was allowed, when you said I want to be with my friends for the weekend. I remember being your age and not wanting to be with my parents. Right. So I said, okay, would let you go. Not realizing many years later, it would be abandonment.
Right.
And there was abandonment times.
Yeah.
There were times in my life where, we'll back up a little. I was fighting with homosexuality. Did not know. Or I don't know if I didn't know, I just wasn't going to know. So life was a little challenging. coming from a very hard knocking family where they were very, very poor, hardworking people. And if you got teary eyed, you got to pound them because they gave you something to cry for. And they were raised that way. So when I left your mother, my life was to a point where I didn't know what to do. So I've had horses my whole life. And that's all that ever mattered was the dream of being a great horseman. Yeah. And I'd sacrificed, thinking I was doing the right thing because we were raised in my family.
And we can dive deeper into, the reasonings of, we get into your story there, but, as that child, it was, I understood. I think the greatest quality that I appreciated about you was you had a dream and you did everything possible to chase after it.
And I caught it.
Yeah, you did. And so, that was probably one of the greatest attributes that got passed down to me, because mom, was just like the most safe person in the world.
Yeah.
And so I kind of got that little bit of like consistency from her and dream chasing from you. And both were just extremely hardworking. So, it wasn't always a bad thing to watch you chase.
And I had to move a lot.
Right.
Because either we were in an area where I couldn't make money, or I was in an area where I was trying to build my business so much that you get arrogant
and say, or there was your ego that got in the way of everything.
Well, see, I'm a realist and I speak the truth. You know what I mean? And was one of the things, And I was a successful horse trainer on the circuit that we were in. We had a lot of blue ribbons and we had a lot of happy customers.
Yeah.
When you got a little older, as you know, rich people had these horses.
Yeah.
And we were poor.
Yeah.
So in order to keep these rich customers, you did everything possible. And these rich customers just didn't have horses for them to ride and for their children. So their children was put in front of you all the time. In order for us to have had the stable, I had to work restaurant jobs.
Yeah.
And I got good at it because if you need weekends off to go to horse shows, where my real money, my business was, you had to be good at your job.
Yeah.
And football games were Saturday night. And as head waiter at a very fancy restaurant, there was no way I could get Saturday night off. Especially when I was having one off 3 weeks later to go up to a horseshoe at Eastern States. And I thought I was doing the right thing. Not saying I hate my son, I don't want to spend time with him. But putting that wealthy person over you.
And listen, you did.
My dad put his fishing business over me.
Right.
And I should have been adult enough and educated enough to just the 12 years of school to have been able to see through that and not follow that same path. But greed brought me down that road.
It's not just greed. It's, it's just life. It's human condition. Men, we're meant to produce, we're meant to create, and that's what drives us. And that's, doesn't matter what man it is, they think they need to provide, and they neglect the important things in life. But as a
survival is,
but as a child, that was, like the hardest thing. Like football was my life, and I think you made it to like 3 games.
Yeah, in high school.
And I played all the way through, through college.
I went to a few of those, not as many as I should have.
Yeah. So that was, it was hard. Then there was a point where things got even worse. I mean, right before I got married, we were in such a bad place. I didn't even want you to go to the wedding.
I know.
And it wasn't for Nana, she said she wouldn't go unless you did. And, you know, life's just one of those things where, you know, I carried this hatred towards you for a long time. And then it wasn't even hatred. It was just like, you existed, you know, you were my dad, but
yeah,
you know, it wasn't like I was cutting you off, but I was
biologically only.
But it was more than that. It wasn't like I was cutting you off, but I also wasn't intentionally putting a ton of energy into reaching out.
Yeah.
You know, so we might talk once a month, and then life breaks you.
Yeah.
And when it breaks you, it makes you look at yourself and look at your patterns and look at what happened in life, and then also gives you empathy towards others and understanding others' journeys. And one of the greatest things you ever did was, it was not long after my divorce, you just broke down one day on the phone and you just said, listen, the thing I fucking regret the most in life is not being there for you. And you just said, but you gotta understand, I was running from my own demons, that I've been fighting my own battle, and I couldn't be there for you. And I realized that I threw away a marriage because I couldn't be there for her, because I was running from my own shit. And it just makes you go to
all the same trend that you were taught.
Right. And it just kind of makes you realize, like, oh, fuck, like, I know that's not what he wanted. And I know that he wishes he could do anything in the world to go back and change that.
Yeah.
You know, and it doesn't, like, that forgiveness, it doesn't wipe away everything that happened, but it takes the poison away, and it just takes away that hate. And,
yeah.
You know, I'm just so grateful that we can be here.
Exactly. And maturity has to take over some time, where, you know, we can't just rely on what happened when we were little. You know, I had a bad life, you know, that I don't need to discuss a lot of, but, physical things like that. Wanted my dad.
Yeah.
Who physically told me to.
Let's get into your story. This is, you know, we're at our place of reconciliation. Now this is about you. So
you know, that's
go back
kind
to
of where it started. You know?
Yeah. That's what bring us back. You know, so let's hear about your childhood. And
we were raised very, very poor. My mother worked 2 full-time jobs, and then took care of a family with a husband who really worked, but also had his boats and his fishing business part-time, and that was more important than his children or his wife. We couldn't understand why he would be gone for long periods of the time, and his family really wasn't close to us for a reason.
Yeah.
And then we found out when I was 16 that he had another family. So I had a brother that was 6 months older than me, and one that was a newborn, 16 years younger. And while that was happening, my sister, who was, God rest her soul, a troubled girl who was a runaway and a drug addict, and was coming home with her first child. So it was a very tense time for children to be in that house. So we chose to not stay in that house. We chose other people to help try to raise us, because we didn't know what else to do. You know? And love, there was no love. Never one time saw my father kiss my mother. And they would go months where they wouldn't speak. Just tell your mother this, tell your father that. So we weren't even taught how to be a complete family.
Yeah.
And they said, oh, that's bullcrap. But they had 4 living children that made it to adulthood. And when we all became adults, we had nothing to do with each other.
Yeah.
There was no family bond.
No. Listen, I hate saying that, but I used to be so miserable having to go to Nana's for holidays and stuff, because just everybody just fucking hated each other and no one wanted to be there. And just the energy was just so terrible
of Nana.
Right. For her to try to keep it together. But the energy was just so horrible in that place. And still to this day. And I go every day to go see, when I'm home to see Nana. But yeah, it was, I understand why, you know, you weren't emotionally available for me.
Yeah. You know, and then as adulthood grew,
Well, we can go
separated.
Right. I mean, go,
One coast to the other.
go, lean into what it was like, to be gay, to know that when you're in high school.
Well, that was something I did.
Having a child early, like bring us to the
girl. I had no idea. I knew I was different. I liked the horses, and I was very artistic. If there was a new fashion that was to be worn, I wore it, and so did my brother. My mother just said, and we were in chorus, and I was in the band, but the horses was my main interest, and it was more where we lived a lady sport. So most of my friends were girls, and I never really got bonded with any men, and I couldn't understand why. Then, as I got older, I was found to be attractive by men, and I was afraid to be around them. And I did everything to stay away from them. And your mother and I started dating when I think she was 14, and I was just turning 16. We had known each other before that, through the horses and family, close. And so,
like a 30-minute walk from each other.
Yeah. She got thrown out of the house so many times she could count on that. And, we just fell in love with each other. She had a very, very hard life as well. And that's her story to tell someday.
She won't ever tell it because she won't admit it.
And, so she spent a lot of time at my family's. And so her dad was dying, and he called me to the hospital and said, I want you to marry my daughter before I die. I did. And nobody liked it because I was 19 and she was 18. So we did it. And we had a good life, but it wasn't a love affair. It was more of a friendship. And then you came. Great day for me. But the demon never stopped. Sorry about that.
Go. Let it go. This is what this is all about.
So I moved you so many times. One time to a chicken coop. Because I wanted to go to Kentucky. We needed to save money because it was more money in the horse business in Kentucky. So now we sell everything we could, and we got to Kentucky, and I couldn't get a job. So I got one in a restaurant, and the day before I was supposed to start work, we were living in this dumpy little trailer in this nasty trailer park. And there's a little general store at the end of the street. So we put you in your little carriage, and we go to the end of the street. And it was really eerie, and just, you didn't hear a bird or anything. So we got all the way to the store, and the store was closed. And we're like, what? So now we're heading back to the trailer, and we're looking out across, and you see the whole sky is really black and twisted. And in came the tornado. Well, that was it. Your mother hated that. The spider, and after everything was all said, there was a spider in the bed, and that was it. Off we went. And I got a job in New Hampshire at a riding state. We were standing on leashes, and she just wasn't going to be happy. So we went there, and it didn't work out. And then she went on to go around and stuff. And all these demons that had been in my head, and now I'm lost my wife and my baby. And so I went out one night and went to a Cape in Boston with my aunt and my cousin. And I got picked up on, and I didn't respond, but I didn't get sick and disgusted over it. And then I just thought about it, and said, this is something that I am afraid is going to happen. I think I'm gay. So my grandfather died, and at his bereavement dinner at my mother and father's, I took Teresa out and said, I think I'm gay. And she says, well, what does this mean? I said, I'm not coming back. I want to try this. I got to know. So I tried it, and it was who I was, evidently. And that caused a lot of family problems. because now it's mid-80s, it was 85. And AIDS has just come out. And, people were telling you not to kiss me because you'll die of AIDS. When the word got all over town that I was gay, it just, I was not allowed anywhere. I was not anything that you did because I was kept away from what it was. And then there was times in the horse business that I had moved away that I didn't feel it was safe for you. It wasn't a sexual thing that I was afraid somebody was going to molest you or anything because I had to kill any man and they all knew that. But just the situations of where we were living and the people that were around, I just didn't trust what you would have seen or gone through. It wasn't protecting you. It was kind of protecting me when I thought about it.
Yeah.
And then when I moved into Worcester and I finally settled, I was 40 and changed my life around. I became a blacksmith. So I wasn't on the road quite as much. And I actually, for the very first time, learned how to make money in horse business. But by that, it was kind of too late. You already had your mindset that I didn't know and that I didn't watch. But I thought all these years by keeping these horses and trying to make a living and show you that I could own my own business and function. The only reason I had to work the other jobs was because I owned the horses of my own. We rescued John, the inner sister, and kind of rescued Willow, and it was expensive, to $5,000 a month to run the barn before the hay and the rain.
Right.
As you know, we've said it before. Nobody knew that we were poor because my stall setups looked like everybody else, and when they went by and they saw all the blue ribbons, they don't know the difference between the classes that we won those ribbons in.
Yeah.
And at the end of the night, they went to their fancy hotels or their $500,000 campers, and we slept in the barn. And we were the last ones in the barn so that nobody would see where we slept, and we were the first ones up in the morning.
Yeah. Most of the Hispanics that worked at the other farms had hotel rooms.
Yeah, we didn't.
Yeah.
And but the worst time we went to the World Championships.
Yeah.
And
sleeping in that 6
we were told that we could park the horse van, and it had been done for many years, by the 10 buds and plug in. We were all set and it was all ready. We got there, they wouldn't let us. So I didn't have any form of electricity.
Yeah.
So we hung around until it was, the latest part of the night, so it would cool down the best we could, and then just try to fall asleep. This is where the rich clients come in, because a very, very rich customer that we're at the World Championships with wouldn't pay for my hotel room.
Yeah. And also took my ride away.
Yeah, and took your ride away because you were a better rider than a daughter.
Yeah.
So we had to borrow
a horse the night before the World Championships.
Yeah. And you were up in the top 3 the whole first way, and then the horse kind of
wasn't on you. No, it was right when we got in. He froze right when he saw that green sawdust down the chute. Because the night before, I was winning hands down.
Oh yeah.
When I test rode him. Yeah. And then as soon as we went down that rink, down that chute, we hit that green sawdust and he just froze. And mind you, I'm in a class where I have to look perfect on a horse.
It's the World Championships.
And like the class itself is literally like, make yourself look as perfect as possible, make the horse look as perfect as possible while doing it as effortlessly as possible. And and I wonder why I have fucking perfectionism issues.
We're 17 kids in the ring.
Yeah. And so I'm trying to spur this horse to death without the judges seeing. And yeah.
It was 7.
It was an experience.
These are the ribbon.
Yeah.
Wasn't the one that we wanted, but it was the World Championships. The struggles to get there.
Yeah.
And if we could have got SS Innovision there, you would have won that class. But she was just not going to canter for you.
Yeah.
But, we had wonderful E.B. Fleet Admiral. And Moose, you beat Nicky Ray Woodworth at the championship class at a horse show, and her mother come and tried to buy him off. So anyways, that was my story. And, if I could do it all over again, I would do it different. But life doesn't give you that second chance.
Yeah.
You can never, ever change yesterday.
It gives us a second chance. So the second chance is
we do have a second chance. And one of the biggest things, because I've been a Christian my whole life.
Yeah.
My parents weren't. We were looked at as heathens. And a neighbor, Priscilla Marshall, when Donald and I were 9 and 10, told my mother she was going to start taking us to church on Sundays because she wasn't going to let us grow up like heathens. And so we got all dressed up and off to church we went. And we both really, really enjoyed it. Donald still to this day is high in his church. He doesn't do the same style that we were kids still, we were congregation.
Yeah.
No, he's Russian mama dogs.
Yeah.
But, he's never dropped his faith ever. I dropped my faith time.
Yeah. Because you said you were a youth leader and everything.
I stayed right in with
which is not as I didn't even know. Because God was never spoken in our lives.
Yeah. And I was at that church 4 or 5 nights a week. Spend so much time at 15, 16 with our youth group minister, Dean Glover and his wife. They took a whole bunch of us children that were very poor, and they saw something in us, and they kind of held us. And we were in the choir. We would have bean suppers and things at the house. And then, things changed. The horses, and I had to work on Sundays. Back in those days, there was no church that was open on Saturday night.
Right.
So, and church for us was, God's going to get you if you did something wrong and all of that. But, never meant that I didn't have faith. I just didn't go to church. I had gay friends that got brutally beat out on church steps in Boston. My good friend Jill Jones was raped, gang raped, because she was Christian in the church. So there wasn't good things. But then you remember the church had nothing to do with it. The older you get, you realize the wonder of all of this, and that we're allowed to do these things.
Yeah.
And allowed to have a horse business. And still today at 66 and a half, I spend almost every day with them. But I don't have to feed them any longer. I have to clean the poop. I just have to take care of their shoeing needs.
Yeah.
So someday maybe you'll ride again.
I always said I'll have horses when I'm rich, because I know how much money and effort it takes into it. So it's one of those things. So when you were, this is interesting to me because never in my life did you ever mention church or Christ or God, really. So when did
I helped with, I was like 15, 16, helping with the youth group.
Yeah.
The whole bit. Yeah.
It's interesting.
Loving it. Knew the Bible. We went to Bible study.
Yeah. And what was the moment that you were just finally like that you just walked away?
When a friend of mine donated $40,000 to her church to put in new seat covers, the Baptist church in Hampton Falls, that has a, mind you, a beer bottle for a steeple, because the person that built that church owned a brewery, and that was the way he gave the money. So she bought all my hymnals and Bibles and stuff for the church. The seat covers all done. Went to that church a whole lot just ago. And that next Sunday morning, the pastor talked about the evils of homosexuality, and went on and was aggressive with his preaching, and then stuck his finger out and said, I'm talking about you, and pointed there. Not at all anything that I was thought should have ever happened.
Yeah.
And it just made me realize that, wow, we're never ever going to be accepted, no matter what we do. So now, not been accepted in community, not been accepted in family, when I came out of the closet. Then Pop had nothing to do with me for years. Years and years. And still to this day, they poo-poo. And I was told by my mother how embarrassed she was by me. Because I was embarrassing to her grandchildren. And they said, well, my son's one of your grandchildren, and I don't think I'm embarrassing to him. But, so when you're raised that to feel like no matter what you do is never, ever going to be worth it because no one's going to care. Then you realize that God's always there to care. Because every single day I get out of bed. Something drew me to not kill myself, which I wanted to do a few times. Not to run away any longer, to face things because you had to. And that's, I pray every day. Pray a lot of times when to go to work. I don't get kicked in the head and killed.
Yeah.
But I found a church in Sarasota, Florida. I've lived right outside of it. Is gay affirmative. And I went to a little concert that they had and felt extremely warm and accepted. Not by lots of gay men or women, but by a lot of straight older families that were there. And so it's a church I'm going to give some time to.
Yeah.
It's a little farther away than I would like, but for the very first time ever in 50 years, or 52 years, decided I won't work weekends anymore.
Yeah.
So now I have my Sundays open to do things.
Yeah. Like I said, it was great to hear you, kind of turning back into your faith, because that really only happened about a year and a half ago. It really is when you kind of started talking about it again.
Yeah. It was right around the time where you started to talk about it a little bit.
Yeah.
When you were born, we had a horrible, horrible time, your mom and I, about you being baptized. I wanted you baptized. In my beliefs at my church, you needed to be baptized or your soul wouldn't go to heaven.
Right.
And I was like, if something happens to our baby, he's not going to go to heaven. And she wouldn't allow me to have you baptized. I'd even thought of like sneaking off and having you baptized. So you have to sign. Yeah. And then I get a beating.
Right.
Yeah. Because I was a little afraid of you, mother.
Everybody is. Yeah, you don't bet. But there's also, there's two sides of that coin too. So like where my belief system is, you need to make that declaration of your life, of your own fruition. So you need to be of a certain age that you understand that you're making that.
Yeah.
And that that previously, before that time, if anything happens, there's a judgment day that you get to be before God, and he's going to understand that you didn't have an opportunity to make that choice for yourself. So
we were baptized by a great uncle, Oscar Rowe, who lived in Philadelphia. And he was part of the Salvation Army Church. So we were actually baptized Salvation Army.
yeah,
We tell people that, and they say, that's a clothing store. It was a church. The clothes is what brings in the money to run the church.
right.
It was a church that fed everybody who was needy. They didn't care.
Yeah.
And the older you get, you do go back to faith if you had it. Yeah. Getting closer to death, reality of death sets in. And if you're not quite sure about afterlife, or if there really is a heaven, it kind of answers some of your questions, and it relieves some of the questions that you would have.
Yeah.
Or the feelings.
Yeah. I mean, with everything, that's, it's, he takes away everything from us, all of our pain, all of our suffering, all of our questionings. And so no matter where you are in life, it just, you hope to see people come to faith at an earlier state so that they can find that peace.
Yeah. I couldn't understand why he wanted me to be gay. What choice was that? It wasn't my choice.
Yeah.
As I found out, I was told, it is your choice. You can go back to a wife. You and she's had a baby.
Yeah.
That was chemistry.
Right.
Biology. Two people can't love next to each other without getting horny.
Right.
And we loved each other. We really did. But it was kid love. And she had horses, the race ponies, so she knew what life I wanted.
Yeah.
And after I got married, she didn't want that anymore. She wanted that white picket fence houses.
Yeah. And say, the mom I know wanted nothing to do with the horses. So that's surprising. But then I also thought it was just more of a backlash of an anger towards you.
I believe that's what it was. Yeah.
Yeah. She's spiteful.
Yeah. When I moved, she wouldn't let me take Romeo when I couldn't afford to pay all the payments. So we lost him to Maryland Shank.
Yeah.
And when I came home, I bought him back. Every penny.
Yeah.
And she made sure that your mother got more bit of money back for you. Because I just couldn't take it.
Yeah.
When I come home a couple of times, it was hard to see you because, Everett's family didn't approve. So until Everett died, I wasn't even allowed near them.
Yeah. I think it was more Everett and Papa, who were kind of the more closed-minded racists.
Sat next to Nana at a grocery store, and she refused to turn.
Yeah.
That's when I was like done with family.
Yeah. I mean,
that's why moving away was not at all hard.
Yeah.
Never one time I ever said, oh my God, I can't wait to go back to Seabrook to live. And I go back to see my family, and there's one little place in Seabrook Harbor. That's my one and only happy spot. And it shouldn't be, because I was dragged out of bed very young to go dig clams. Didn't care if it was summer, winter, freezing to death. I got really good at it. Really, really, really good at it. And so the rest of the family would go and sit in the car with their clam licenses. Dad and I would go down into the marsh and dig 6 pails of clams because he would sell them. I mean, we got the money, but it wouldn't touch bicycles and things like that.
Yeah.
But as early age, we were worked.
Yeah.
And then when the horses came, he did not want that at all. It was going to be no horse. So my grandmother, Mimi, Pauline, didn't particularly care for him. She had a reason. He was a cheat on her daughter. And so she bought me a horse for spite. For him, to piss him off. And it hold into that.
Yeah.
But I had to pay for it. Worked at Wild Horseshoe, did piece work that they bring home and that do, and then that just didn't cover vet bills and all those other things. Because surprise, surprise, we had the 7 months and the baby fell out.
Yeah.
Not only got one horse, now I got 2 horses I have to take care of, and then he got sick at birth. He had a hernia, couldn't stand up. It got ICU, started flying effect, and so he had a hernia in his testicle. So off to Rochester Equine he had to go. That was more money. So it was never from day one.
Yeah. And it was, I know being raised by Papa was tough. I know that, there was some physical abuse and verbal abuse that you had to go through. And, Nana was not the nurturing, loving Nana that the grandkids dealt with.
That's right. First time I ever had a physical problem with my father, he come home drunk one night. He didn't drink a lot. He'd have a beer or 2 at the house, but he didn't have a good drink. And he come home drunk, very drunk, dirty drunk. She was waiting for him. She was ironing. Everything we wore was ironed. Socks, underpants, everything white was starched.
I used to iron my t-shirts myself.
So that's where it's coming from. Yeah. So he came home and they were fighting, and I was in bed. And I heard things banging around in the living room, so I got up and looked, and he's got her in the chair choking her. And he wouldn't get off of her. So I didn't know what to do, so I climbed up on his back, tried to pull him off, this little kid, and I couldn't pull him off. So I grabbed him by his hair, pulled his head back, and punched him right between the eyes. He got off of her and right on top of me.
Yeah.
And that was the first time he punched me out. She burnt him with the iron. That's the only way he got off. And I told him that day, I'll never let you hit me again. And we fought for years. Fist fight. I had to have him arrested once.
This story ends today, but yours is still waiting to be told. You're not alone in this walk in life. If this hits you, share it with someone that needs it. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. Find me at Brad B. Rowe at Instagram. And if you're ready to step into the front row of your life, whether it be the fellowship, the foundry, coaching, or support the ministry, you can find it all at frontrow.co. I'll see you next week.